This podcast is brought to you by Turncast. We make game-changing content for fintech and financial services companies. Learn more at turncast.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Connected. I am your host, Kyle Van Pelt, CEO of Milemarker. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Matt Morris. For those of you who don't know, Matt is the CEO and founder of EncorEstate Plans. He is a guy that I was in the trenches with at Riskalyze, now known as Nitrogen to many of you listening to this. He's a dad who loves his kids dearly. He's an endurance athlete, and he is loving life right now running EncorEstate Plans. Matt, did I miss anything?
Yeah, be careful about overstating how my endurance athlete. Yes, I have run a marathon. I can't say I've been running as much as I would have liked of late. And so you can't quite see me from halfway down right now with the extra belly I'm carrying. But
well, listen, everybody's on their own journey, okay? And in my mind, anybody who's completed a marathon, that's an endurance athlete in my opinion. So that's welcome on this show.
Thanks.
Well, Matt, I'm so glad to have you here, man. It's good to reconnect, and I'm excited to talk about your story here a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. You know, it's it's amazing how stories in life come together. And somehow recently I've landed in a place I never fathomed I'd be. But I'm having an absolute blast with it. And so I'm blessed and fortunate to be where I am and to take on some of the projects that are on my plate.
100%. Well, let's start there, actually. You know, you talk about the path that got you here. You and I knew each other when we were both at Riskalyze. You took some time off after that, and then you kind of wound your way into this estate planning place, and now you end up the owner and CEO of a business. Like, talk to us about that story. How did that come to be?
Yeah, well, and you know our time at Riskalyze, and we're going to say Riskalyze and Nitrogen every time we say it, or we just need to land on Nitrogen.
I don't know. Yeah, let's just go with what they want to be called.
Yeah, they want to be called Nitrogen. So let's just land our time at Nitrogen, even though it was Riskalyze. But, you know, that was an incredible experience. I call it the PhD in wealth tech startup that we got in those years. And man, just so fortunate from being able to go at that point from being the 10th employee in the door and being able to go on the journey across from a few hundred advisors to, I think 20,000 we were across when I left in 2020, and build up an organization, work for incredible leaders and just incredible team and people, everything on how to work with advisors, what advisors want. And it's, as you know, it's you learn from the wind, but you learn way more from the mistakes and the cost of those mistakes. And you probably saw it within my LinkedIn, but when I decided to leave in 2020, it was really actually a lot of personal issues. It was just burnout. And I had an incredible ride, but my personality type in the role I was in just caused me to run at a rate that wasn't sustainable. And I had to just recognize that and own that. So I left and just said, I'm done for a while, and took a sabbatical. It was a month before the pandemic started that kind of became more of a sabbatical for a lot of people, not intentionally. And I just spent some time with my kids and spent a lot of time at the skate park, hanging out with my kids, and said, you know what? I'm going to trust that what I did accomplish in my time there would find me another opportunity. But I tell people, and honestly, I worked my ass off in my sabbatical, but mostly on me. And I needed to take some time and go, why is it that I find myself in this place of burnout? What is it that is in me that would allow me to go forward from this place in my career and do it in a healthier way? And so that was that time. And I absolutely wanted to take advantage of that PhD we got in those years and what I learned and do it again. I have been an entrepreneur my entire career. And so then it was a matter of, okay, I'm ready to re-engage and try to do this in a healthier way. What's next for financial advisors and technology, and where are the opportunities? And that led me to kind of think about holistic planning and seeing, what we had seen, the evolution of financial planning to the next levels. And this estate planning category really made a lot of sense to me. So I jumped onto that point with a little firm called Helios that was just getting started in this, and have been doing that for a while. Met an incredible guy and my business partner now, who'd been an estate planning attorney for 15 years. And once I got to know him, our relationship just blossomed, and found that we were just perfect business partners. And then along came 2021. Helios had its own business model that they were working on. They decided to make some changes within that, and how that affected us on an estate planning, kind of where they largely incubated us and gave us a lot of help. And so they set us free to pursue it. And we launched Encore from that place. And here I am now, CEO and running a wealth tech company and loving it.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Yes, I agree. We got a PhD in running things. And now that you're kind of sitting in the seat you are, like what has kind of been the unexpected part of the journey, that you're like, man, okay, didn't see this coming. This is new. This is interesting.
Interesting question. I would say I was hesitant to be a CEO because I recognized a lot of the parts of the role that are things I don't want to do. I'm not an accounting guy. I'm a sales guy by nature, and running a sales org, that's my corest competency. But I've always been entrepreneurial. I've been a solopreneur for years before Riskalyze. And so I've always taken charge that way. And so I think it's some of the things, recognizing that I don't have to do the things that I'm not good at. I can find good people for those roles. Everybody kind of talks about, we have a little bit of the, I'm not equipped for this kind of a role. If I've looked to other people as my model, and I don't have the strengths that that person has to do this role. Perfect example for me is work directly under Aaron Klein. I'm not Aaron Klein in a lot of different ways. He's great at things I'm not good at. And so, but I can say, wait a minute, what are understanding my strengths, doing a lot of work on me to understand that, and then put the right people in place that have strengths where I have weaknesses, and I can focus on the things I'm good at. So it's definitely been an experience in trying to better understand what I need to hand off, what the kinds of people I need around me, but also not trying to be anything other than who I am. And sometimes that's hard for me. It's hard for a lot of us, right? To feel like we should be something that doesn't come natural to us. And I'm trying to focus on do the things that become natural to me, find people who are good at the things that are natural to them.
Yeah. It's that concept of find the things that give you energy. They don't drain energy.
Yeah.
And, we can't spend all day long doing only the things that give us energy, but we should try to optimize for as much of that as possible. Right. I really empathize and relate with what you were just sharing, because I think that's been similar to my journey, is early on trying to be the CEO of all of these other people that you've looked up to, rather than just being, who I am as a CEO, and I feel very similarly. Like, I think, shout out to Aaron Klein. We wouldn't have got the PhD without him being who he is, and without Mike McDaniel being who he is. Aaron's an incredible CEO, but I'm not Aaron. No. I'm not in a lot of ways. And I had to learn how to be me. Right. So I empathize with that. And also not, that's the guy we know and we worked with, but I'm sure you might deal with this too, where you look at these other larger than life CEOs that you want to be like, right? Like the Jeff Bezoses of the world, or the whoever, you name it. Right. And it's a challenge not to fall into that comparison trap.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the biggest trap, the curse of comparison. So how has that been for you? You tell me, as a CEO, not far apart, you and I both landed in these roles for the first time. How was that? Yeah. What has been the surprise for you? I'm curious.
I really would echo a lot of what you said, but I would maybe tweak it and just say, I didn't realize how much of the battle would be in the mirror and in my own head, because that's really what it is. It's like, you got to wake up every day, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe and you have to work on yourself. You have to grow yourself just as much as you're growing the company. I think I knew that would be the case, but it still has been the biggest surprise of just how much of the job is that.
Yeah.
So 100%.
Have you, and we're going to have to talk compare someday, because I'm talking to a new coach right now that I'm thinking about hiring. And so we'll have to talk through that, is finding the right people that can help us with that self-discovery. And I guess, the word I was looking for earlier is kind of that imposter, feeling of, here I am in this role, and people will look at me in this role and expect something from me, versus how do I just execute on who I am and be okay with it? Isn't it? I guess all of our journey to just be okay with who we
Yeah,
are
and
as we are where we are.
And I would say that to the, to the firm owner listening to this podcast and everything too. I'm sure you go through a lot of those similar ideas. And I don't know, the mentality that I've had as I've thought about this is, instead of trying to adapt myself to be who I think everybody needs me to be, it's like, try to create a journey and a story other people want to come on, an authentic story and journey that other people want to be a part of, right? That you can authentically go and say, this is who I am and this is the journey we're going on. And I owe a lot to my business partner too, Judd, because on the same thing, it's like, hey, we're just trying to create something that we both know we can do. And we want to find people who want to come alongside that, rather than trying to become somebody or build something that I think other people want us to be and build. And that's hard, because it's putting yourself out there and it's trusting that people are going to want to come along for that journey.
We are on the Connected podcast, right? And I've heard you ask that question before on this is, how do we get connected? But I think you just nailed it. It's the vulnerability. I'm willing to be vulnerable with where we are, who we are, the struggles we have. And I think within that, it's so refreshing. And when we have a worthwhile project that is interesting and compelling, and people can do it with people they enjoy being in the trenches with, the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. It's the finding the talent. But if I can be connected with my team in a way that is being willing to share where my weaknesses are and my strengths are, and acknowledging that, these are points of vulnerability that just help build the connection of the team around us.
Well, and staying on that theme, I actually want to kind of dig into something from the beginning of your answer there, which was, you spent a lot of time during that sabbatical working on yourself. And, to the extent that you would be willing to unpack some of it, I'm just curious about what that looked like. Because I guarantee you there's people listening to this that have probably experienced burnout. They're trying to figure out, how do I not, go through that or whatever. I mean, what were some of the insights you had from being able to take a sabbatical and learn about yourself?
I'll give you the high level one. The takeaway, big one is, are you familiar with the Enneagram? Are you a fan of the Enneagram?
Yeah.
All right. I'm maybe not a surprise, but as a CEO, as a salesperson, I'm an Enneagram 3, which is the achiever. And really the big takeaway I uncovered is that the achievement in me, the achiever in me, is ultimately looking for validation and worth from achieving, from being able to, I loved being able to qualify my value on what I delivered in sales across my career, what my team accomplished. And that's a blessing and a curse, but it's the curse when my value and worth comes from what I accomplish and what I get done, and being able to have a better answer for my core value and worth. And that started in me as a young person. I was an athlete and a wrestler in high school. And so I learned how to grind. I learned how to work being a wrestler as a young person. And I learned people appreciated it. I was popular for being good at something, and got validation from mom and dad for being good at something that I didn't get for just being me. And so those are some dark places you have to go into some of our reality. But I don't think I'm alone with business owners, with advisors who have that strong drive, but being able to recognize and re-architect it in a healthy way, that isn't where my value and worth comes from. To me, that's more of a spiritual question to answer within myself, and to recognize who I am apart from my achievement. And then to be able to go into life and day to day, it's still a challenge, and recognize, how can I be who I really am in the role I'm in without having to prove something. So there you go. Awesome. How's that for?
Yeah. What a powerful exercise though to do before you went into this role. It's amazing how timing works on stuff. But if you had just jumped straight into this, I wonder if you had been, would have been able to handle it or be as successful in it, or all of those sort of things. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's the self-awareness that, I was in my late 40s and kind of have to have that midlife crisis, or whatever you want to call it, that is takes us on, hopefully in a healthy crisis. A healthy way of dealing with it is it takes us through a journey of self-awareness, and coming to that awareness that is definitely still a part of me. It's not something that I fixed in that time off, but it's something that I can recognize and be aware of, and recognize when I need to stop, and I just need to not maybe pursue some things. Maybe I need to grow faster. I mean, now I have to make some hard decisions for a company that, and especially in a culture that we're also more is always better in our culture. That's just the way. And I'm having to, as a CEO, and as we're trying to grow as fast and do everything as fast as we can, to also go, is more actually better for my quality of life every time? And it's hard to say no to that. But being aware of that internal struggle is, I think, putting me in a better place that says, let's have an excellent team that we strive to provide excellence to who we serve, how we work as a team, but we also don't have to do everything now. And so I'm a sucker for that culture, and it's worked well in the past, but I am happy to be in a place where I can help determine that a little bit. But I'm having to balance it. I was going to say, how about you within that same thinking in your situation? Because is more always better?
Oh man, I'm completely susceptible to that ever since I was a little kid. And it's funny because I see it manifesting in one of my kids right now too. It's incredible to watch, but it's just even that mentality of wondering what's next before you're even doing the thing that you're doing right now. Right. And so that's a struggle for me of not being able to enjoy the present, because you're always seeing how something could be better, or what's the next thing that's going to be fun, or whatever. You're always future looking, to the extent that it can kind of rob you of the present in some ways. And so I struggle with that a lot. And I think that's something that I'm constantly having to check as well, because to your point, you have to know who you are and what you want. Because not to be too cheesy or cliche, but we only get one shot at this life thing, right? So it's not like we get to do all of these things and then go back and be like, all right, here's where I think I got it wrong. I'm going to go do it all over again, and try and get it right. So you have to figure out what you want out of life, and then you have to kind of build your life around that in a way that it serves those desires for you, right? So I absolutely believe I'm where I'm supposed to be right now, and I'm in the seat I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But I need to make sure that stays aligned with my values and my goals and my dreams, and not just constantly pushing for more without understanding what the more is for. So we could probably spend the entire podcast talking about all of this stuff, which would be fun. But I want to shift gears a little bit here and talk about some estate planning stuff. So your business, you help advisors with estate planning, but I kind of want to give you the mic to talk about this a bit, because people have been doing estate plans forever. I mean, going way, I mean, even out before America came to be, people are doing estate plans, right? So this is not a new idea, but yet there has been some technology that's come out to really sort of make this easier, maybe bring it to more of a mass market. I just would love to hear you talk about the state of estate planning and why is it so hot right now?
Yeah, I think it's an incredible opportunity for within our space, working with advisors and financial planners. And the reality is, it's been around forever. Every person you speak to that has kids, has any level of assets, recognizes their need for one. They want one. Yet we live in a country that 67% of people don't have one. And so the reality is it's hot because the current client experience around estate planning is broken. And so thinking about this in a new way, the technology really that makes it as easy as possible has been around for now 20 years. I mean, LegalZoom was kind of the pioneer here to say, why don't we just take the technology, give people the questions they need to answer, they answer them, and a document comes out. Well, that's been around for a while, but it also hasn't solved the problem. People aren't doing that. Most people have the choice to go, well, I can DIY this. Know hundreds and hundreds of opportunities you can go find online to DIY your estate plan. But I think people look and they go, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know. And am I really comfortable with this document? If I went and DIY'd my estate plan, I like the price point. It was way better than the attorney down the street and what they told me it was going to cost. But I'm not real comfortable with it. And so let me wait. My advisor's been referring me to this attorney to go to, but I get to go sit down with a stranger and I get to talk about death. I get to talk about the end of my life. I get to talk about my family dynamics with my kids. And I get to do this with a stranger who doesn't know me. I have to give them all the context of my life and start from scratch so that we make sure we get this done right. And I get to spend thousands of dollars, for the pleasure. Well, you know what? I need to do it. I'll do it next year. We'll get around to that, I promise. And advisors year in and year out will refer their clients off to attorneys, and clients don't take action. And so what we've seen the opportunity is to say, we believe the financial advisor should be integrated into this process without practicing law, that they deliver a better client experience. And if they can help drive the client experience to the place that it is still within the bounds of the law that they can drive it to without practicing law, then they can control the experience. The client wins. The advisor is going to win in so many ways. Attorneys can still win as well within the way this can be done. And ultimately, we can solve for the procrastination that most people live in. I won't ask you directly, Kyle, if you have your estate plan done or up to date, but won't put you on the spot. But we do a lot of financial advisors' estate plans. I can tell you that.
You can put me on the spot. We took care of it. But I empathize with everything you just talked about, though, because we were the ones that our advisor said, hey, you need to take care of this. It was shortly after my second child was born, and they referred us to an attorney, and the attorney was great and everything, but everything you just described, it was more expensive than I thought, but it was like, okay, it's worth it because, I want this all taken care of and all of that stuff. But it was because it was like, well, I work with my advisor about all of these things, and it was already hard enough to share all of these details with this person. Now you want me to go, sort of share it with another person and work through all of this. And like you're talking about, it was the same as a life insurance conversation. It's just not the most fun thing to talk about. Okay, what's going to happen when I die? Like, I don't want to think about that, but it is important. And I think any way that you can make it easier or make it a part of the process that this person is already going through is powerful.
Yeah. And the opportunity for advisors to step into that gap is just tremendous for them. We all understand the generational wealth transfer, 84 trillion. I've heard from Cerillion Associates that's changing hands. And actually, here, I'll tell you the reason I'm here. I was at my desk at Riskalyze in 2015, and my phone starts blowing up. And I get messages from my family that my beautiful, lovely, sweet Aunt Jan had died suddenly of an aneurysm. And our family was kind of heading to her house to meet my cousins and everything there. We get there, we start kind of just talking, and we learn she didn't have an estate plan. She's 73 years old. She's single. She had been divorced just a few years before and never got her estate plan done. And I watched my cousins go through in California probate hell. They spent tens of thousands of dollars they didn't need to spend, hundreds of hours they didn't need to spend. The grieving process, I watched them go through that, had to borrow money from family members to come up with money for the funeral and all the events before they could even get access to their accounts. Her advisor for years had been telling her, get your estate plan done. Here's an attorney. And she said, I'm going to live till I'm 80. And she suddenly wasn't there, and just saw the chaos it wrought. And it wasn't that hard. And so we've said, why can't we just build this where the advisors can drive this process and help gather the information for the client, give the great experience that they give, and then be able to get that client to where they have that document done. Her advisor could have spent 30 minutes with her, and she could have had her estate plan documents done, set up the notary and done. And this sweet lady, her initial, that was the conversation. Too much at her funeral was like, oh, she didn't have a will done. That's a bummer. And we're talking not about what we wanted to talk about in those moments. And so for people to understand that consequence, and like your family, when you have kids, you have those life events, it becomes important. But someone has to grab people by the arm when they don't have the life events. And we believe that's the advisor to step into the gap and say, I'm going to make this easy for you. Here's some things we're going to prepare you with. We're going to sit down. I'm going to have a questionnaire. We're going to walk you through the software that'll do this. We're going to have a team of estate planners that are there for us to be able to facilitate this. And we're going to make it easy for you. And people are signing me up, and let's get it done. And the advisor is really the hero here. This is the beauty of what we've said. We don't work B2C. An individual cannot come to Encore and say, help me get my estate plan done. We only work with advisors, and we equip the advisors to work with their clients. And so within that realm, we're not the hero. We want the client at the end of the day to say, thank you, advisor. You didn't just refer me to a piece of technology that I did all the work. They're saying, thank you for facilitating the process in a way that you gave me client education, which is something this is the question that comes up. How can I do this without practicing law? And it's around client education and understanding that limitation. We can talk about that if you wanted to as well, in light of how an advisor can do that.
Yeah, well, I think before we dive into that, let's talk about kind of what the options are out there. So there's kind of like full-blown DIY, go to LegalZoom and download some documents and go through this myself. And I may not be a lawyer, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night, and I'm going to go ahead and try to fill out these documents, right? And then I think there's kind of this DIY plus, right? So there's companies out there, like you're saying, that right now, if I wanted to, I could go to their website and start filling all of this out on my own. And I assume there's maybe some estate planning attorney on the back end who makes this work. And then you've got the advisor driven one, which is like an advisor is going to help guide you through this. That's like kind of where you sit. And I think a couple of other companies. And then what above that is, you're just working directly with an estate planning attorney, or maybe there's an estate planning attorney on staff at a larger financial services company or something like that. Is that, did I miss any of the ways that people could handle this?
No, I think you got them all. I think it's the one that most people want to go on. And our advisors will typically present those options, just as you did, to their clients and say, hey, client, you can DIY this. This is going to be your cheapest way to do this, accomplish this. I can send you to an attorney. If you'd like that process, I have referral attorneys you could work with, or I can guide you through the process. And cost-wise, it'll probably be in the middle of those other two. The attorney, the most expensive, the technology, the least expensive. I can leverage technology and a team available to me, and I can guide you through. Our advisors tell us 90% of the time the client says, I want to work with you. You're not this isn't a transactional relationship with my advisor. I'm already on second base. I've already talked about these important things. I say advisors have Kleenex on their desk for a reason, and because it gets used. And when I'm talking estate planning, I'm going to get into some pretty tender parts of people's decision making. And so I'm already comfortable doing that with you. I'm in for you facilitating the process. And I understand you can't give me legal advice, but you can educate me and you can give me the resources to help me make a good decision and get me a quality outcome and a quality document. And the benefit to the advisor too is there's a life cycle here. My life's going to change. There's going to be things that come up in a few years. You're going to be aware of them. You're going to help me continue to make sure my estate plan, not just it's done today, that it stays up to date. I don't get that experience with an attorney. There's no attorney that is keeping my plan up to date, helping me understand how it all works. But also now there to say, hey, you inherited some money last year. Would this cause you to think differently about what you'd want to do charity or with your beneficiaries? Well, advisor, now that you bring it up because you knew that happened, yeah, actually, can we talk about maybe how this may impact what I want to do for my estate plan? That's a great experience, so that it's kept up to date. And now the advisor is also centric to the generational wealth transfer that's going to happen. I didn't tell the end of the story with my Aunt Jan, but you can guess that my cousins didn't work with her advisor. She was a 7-figure account for that advisor, and a CAT form came in pretty quickly after her death, as soon as they got access to accounts, and they were gone. And that advisor never got a chance to win the next generation.
That's a good cautionary tale, I think, for a lot of people out there. And it fits in, by the way, with this trend that is happening industry-wide, which is it used to be differentiated enough to just be able to hang your shingle, say you were fee-only fiduciary CFP, and that was different than everybody else who wanted to sell you products, et cetera. But now everybody is a fee-only CFP, AUM-based advisor. And the ways to be able to stand out is to be more full service. But okay, well, if we're going to be full service, how do we do that in an efficient way? And I love what you guys are doing, which is it is tech-enabled, advisor-assisted estate planning, right? Which is, look, there's still going to be attorneys on the back end of this, et cetera, but you don't have to go retell the whole story, do everything all over again. It's efficient. It works within what you're doing, and it allows the advisor to offer a more full service offering. And they're probably doing this along with tax planning stuff and maybe using a tool like holistically Plan to do that. And they're probably doing this with insurance planning and figuring out a way to offer insurance. So now it really can be a hub and spoke model of that advisor is the most critical relationship for all things that have to do with money and planning, and they're just helping facilitate all of those offerings for you. So you don't have to continuously be, re-explaining your story to people over and over again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where those who, from a technology perspective, look at the future of wealth management, it is going to be that the advisor is the quarterback. And that is the best thing for the consumer. That is the best thing for the advisor. They don't need to be the complete expert in all manners of this, but leveraging technology. Perfect example is Holistic Plan. I look to them as my model from an estate planning, how we solve for the same thing in the estate planning category. But in many other services, insurance planning is a huge gap. And there's more technology coming to the table to say, hey, we should help advisors facilitate a good experience with thinking through these other details, whether it be college planning, all these other aspects, obviously deeper income planning. We're seeing so many more tools that help that advisor expand their offering, that they are the primary source. The future of financial advice isn't going to be asset management alone. And as we see what AI is helping to us all to accomplish and where that's going, just that one piece is just not going to be enough. And to be relevant into the future, it's going to have to be pretty comprehensive. And the number of tools in an advisor's, tool.
Well, you brought it up, so I want to talk about it. I mean, I'm sure AI is an interesting development in your world, right? Because sure. I'm sure that it can help make your product more powerful. But, hey, if I have some data about me and I integrate this generative AI into all of this, how can it help with the estate planning stuff? Can it be making recommendations on when I should make changes or all of those sort of things? So what role do you see that playing? Is that going to be disruptive for your side of the world, or is that going to be additive?
Both, in a good way. And so, this is part of why I found the priority, and we've added Matt Pistone, who was one of the founders at Riskalyze, as our CTO, is to really uncover what these opportunities are. And so absolutely, it's going to be disruptive in the way Holistic Plan today can read a tax return pretty easy with OCR technology to be able to pull from a static document. There are thousands and thousands of estate plans out there. And so we are absolutely huge fans of AI, and it'll be part of what we do. But how we are completely thinking about it at this point is a human assisted. And so a human quality control on it. And AI right now it's fun to say, it's hot. It makes everybody think we have something exciting. But at the end of the day, it's really a benefit to services like ours that just is leverage for people that the same estate planner can do more assisted by AI. We're committed to always have a human quality control on it until we're years into the future. We don't see the day yet that we just spit something out that AI, and especially right now, it's reading estate plans, pulling the data out of estate plans.
Awesome. Well, I want to transition a little bit just to talk. I mean, we talked a lot about your sabbatical and things, but I want to talk some more about who Matt is outside of work. So Matt, I know you used to live in Northern California. You moved up to Washington State. There's great mountain biking and trails out there. I love to mountain bike as well, but I'm curious for you, are you like a traditional mountain biker, or have you gotten into this new e-bike trend to help with the climbs?
Yeah, I own an e-mountain bike, and it's been game changing. Have you done it yet? Have you ridden an e-mountain bike?
I have. No, and by the way, it's not surprising at all, because it's tech enabled but human driven, right? I mean, it helps.
Man, perfect. Yeah, you nailed it. And so I have an absolute blast, an e-mountain bike. I have one of the lightest electric powered mountain bike there are. And so it's not a huge motor. It's not an overwhelming bike. It doesn't feel like a motorcycle. But the technical challenges you can take on a bike like that are an absolute blast. And so I also have a wife who was an ultra runner. And so it enables me to go on her runs when I have the power to climb Mount Spokane and some other mountains in the area that I otherwise wouldn't be able to get up on a mountain bike. And then I can wait for her as we run the downhills. And it's perfect. I ride a dual sport motorcycle as well. That's my other favorite thing here in the Pacific Northwest. And so those things translate well. And so I'm on the mountain bike a lot more, but those are my two favorite things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Matt, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Before we wrap up, I wanted to see, is there anything you want to shout out to the audience here?
Yeah, the world's changing and in so many positive ways. I'm not big on social media and the news. And so I have such an optimism for what's happening and where we're going in so many ways in the world. That is maybe because I don't pay attention to a lot of the news cycle on a regular basis. And so maybe that's an opportunity for us all, that instead of looking what's wrong in the world, seeing what's right and the opportunities that we can find. I had no idea I'd land where I am just even a few years ago. And so, but it's more focused on what's good in the world, what are opportunities to be fixed. And I love working with advisors who largely share these same kind of views and people who are really proactive about what the world can be. And so I'll leave it with that. Thank you so much. Super grateful for you, Kyle, for bringing me on, having this conversation. It's so fun to connect again, and can't wait to kind of see you live next opportunity we get to hang out.
Absolutely. What a great place to end, and a great thought to end this with, a very optimistic thought. That's awesome. But since you're not really on social media, I know you're on LinkedIn a little bit, but how can people connect with you if they want to learn more about EncorEstate Plans?
Yeah, EncorEstatePlans.com, shared E in the middle there, just to keep it confusing, just one E. And info@EncorEstate Plans is the best place to reach out. Don't put two E's in it. You'll find us if you do, but that's the one hack there. And I'm on LinkedIn, Matt Morris, easy to find. Only a few of us Matt Morrises, but one tied to Encore. And so would love to connect with anybody who's listening today and get your feedback. As we got connected, Kyle. We got to some good stuff. Thank you for letting me be vulnerable in the way we shared stuff and connect at a deeper level. It sure makes all the work we do and the business relationships we have, more enjoyable.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you on the next one.